The world tilted the moment I saw him, standing like a storm about to break, his silhouette framed against the fading Colorado sunset. My heart thundered not from love, but from dread, because in 3 days, I, Elias Harper, an Omega with nothing but a stubborn streak and a sketchbook, would be married to an alpha I'd never met. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was a contract, inked in the cold logic of pack alliances and my father's ambition. I was 22, barely out of college, when my father summoned me to his study. The air was thick with the scent of old leather and cigar smoke, a room that screamed power. "Elias," he said, not looking up from his desk, "you're to marry Caleb Voss, alpha of the Blackthorn pack. It's been decided." My stomach dropped. Caleb Voss. The name alone carried weight. Truthless, untouchable, a man who'd built his pack's empire from ashes. I'd heard the stories, cold, calculating, a predator who crushed dissent without blinking. And I, an Omega with no status, no strength, was supposed to be his mate. I wanted to scream, to run, but my father's eyes pinned me in place. "This is for the pack," he said. "You'll do your duty." The drive to Blackthorn territory felt like a funeral procession. Colorado's mountains loomed, their peaks sharp against the sky, mirroring the jagged edges of my fear. My mother squeezed my hand, whispering, "He'll protect you, Elias. Alphas like Caleb, they're not all bad." But her words felt hollow. I clutched my sketchbook, my only anchor, sketching feverish lines to keep my hands from shaking. I drew wolves, wild and free, everything I wasn't. By the time we reached the Blackthorn Estatia sprawling mansion of stone and glass, I was a mess of nerves, my Omega instincts screaming to submit while my heart begged to fight. Caleb was waiting on the porch, all sharp angles and quiet power. 6'3", broad shoulders, dark hair swept back, and eyes like a winter forest green, piercing, unreadable. He didn't smile. "Elias," he said, voice low, almost a growl. My name on his lips sent a shiver through me. Not entirely fear. I nodded, unable to speak, my throat tight. He didn't offer a hand, didn't try to charm. He just turned and led me inside, where the pack waited to inspect their alpha's new mate. Dinner was a blur of faces and forced smiles. The Blackthorn pack was a machine loyal, disciplined, and terrifyingly efficient. I felt like a lamb in a den of wolves, their eyes weighing me, judging. Caleb sat at the head of the table, silent, watching. I kept my head down, picking at my food, until a woman, Lila, Caleb's beta, leaned over. "You're not what I expected," she said, her tone curious, not cruel. "He needs someone different." I didn't know what that meant, but it stuck with me, a flicker of something not quite hopeless. That night, alone in a guest room that smelled of cedar and unfamiliarity, I couldn't sleep. My Omega instincts were a storm: fear, anger, and something else. Something that stirred when I thought of Caleb's voice, his gaze. I hated it. I hated him. I hated this world that decided my fate because of what I was. I grabbed my sketchbook, drawing until my fingers ached, pouring my fear into jagged lines and shadowed wolves. When I finally collapsed, the last thing I saw was the sketch of a lone wolf, staring at the moon. Morning came too soon. Caleb found me in the garden, sketching the wildflowers that clung to the edge of the estate. "You draw?" he said. Not a question. I froze, clutching my pencil. Yeah, I muttered, bracing for judgment. Omegas weren't supposed to have hobbies. We were supposed to serve. But Caleb didn't sneer. He crouched beside me, studying the page. It's good, he said simply. And for the first time, I saw something in his eyes: curiosity, maybe even respect. It threw me off balance. Why are you doing this? I blurted, my voice sharp. This marriage. You don't even know me. He stood, towering over me. But his expression wasn't cold. It was complicated. I don't have a choice either, Elias, he said quietly. But I'm not your enemy. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me with the weight of his words and the strange warmth in my chest. Over the next 2 days, I watched him. Caleb wasn't the monster I'd feared. He was strict, yes, but fair. He listened to his pack, settled disputes with a calm that bordered on eerie. And when a young Omega in the pack had a panic attack, Caleb knelt beside them, voice steady, guiding them through it. I didn't understand him. He was supposed to be ruthless, but all I saw was control, not cruelty. And every time our eyes met, my Omega instincts flared, pulling me toward him in a way that terrified me. The night before the wedding, I found him in the library, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at a map of the territory. Can't sleep? He asked without turning. I hesitated, then stepped closer. I don't want this, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to be owned. He set the glass down, his gaze locking onto mine. I don't want to own you, he said, and there was a rawness in his voice that made my breath catch. I want a partner, Elias, not a possession. I didn't know what to say. My whole life, I'd been taught alphas took what they wanted. But Caleb, he was different. Or maybe I was just desperate to believe he was. As I turned to leave, he called after me. Your drawings, he said. They're not just pictures. They're you. I froze, my heart pounding. No one had ever seen me like that. Not my father, not my pack. And yet, this stranger, this alpha, had. The wedding was a spectacle, all white roses and pack banners, but it felt like a cage closing around me. I stood at the altar, my suit too tight, my pulse racing as Caleb's hand brushed mine during the vows. His touch was steady, grounding, and for a moment, I didn't feel like I was drowning. The ceremony blurred past words about unity, duty, the pack's future. I barely heard them. My eyes kept drifting to Caleb. His jaw set, his gaze distant but not unkind. When it was over, the pack cheered, but it was Lila who pulled me aside, her grin sharp. Give him time, she whispered. He's not good with feelings, but he's worth it. I wanted to believe her, but the weight of the ring on my finger felt like a chain. We didn't have a honeymoon. Caleb had pack business arrival pack sniffing too close to Blackthorn territory, and I was left to navigate the mansion alone. It was strange, being his mate but not his partner. I wandered the halls, sketching to keep my mind off the ache in my chest. One evening, I found a locked room, the door heavy with a faint scent of pine and metal. Curiosity got the better of me. I picked the lock, a skill from my rebellious teenage years, and stepped inside. It was Caleb's study, walls lined with maps and books, a desk cluttered with papers, But what caught my eye was a photograph, tucked in a frame half hidden behind a stack of files. A younger Caleb, maybe 18, laughing with a boy who looked like him, same dark hair, same sharp jaw. They were carefree, happy in a way I'd never seen Caleb. My fingers traced the frame, a pang of something like jealousy hitting me. Who was this boy? Why did Caleb keep this hidden? I didn't hear him come in. What are you doing here? His voice was low, dangerous. I spun around, the photo still in my hand. Didn't mean to, I stammered. But his eyes were on the picture, and for the first time, I saw pain in them. Real, raw pain. Put it down, he said. Quieter now. I did, my hand shaking. Who is he? I asked, unable to stop myself. Caleb's jaw tightened. My brother, he said finally. He's gone. The words hung heavy, and I realized I'd stumbled into something sacred, something broken. I'm sorry, I whispered, but he was already turning away. Don't come in here again, he said, and the door clicked shut behind him. I stood there, guilt and curiosity warring inside me. That night, I drew the boy from the photo, trying to capture the light in his eyes, the light Caleb had lost. Days turned into weeks, and Caleb kept his distance. He was polite, attentive even, but there was a wall between us. I hated it, but I didn't know how to break it down. My Omega instincts screamed for closeness, for his scent, his touch, but my pride held me back. I wasn't going to beg. Instead, I threw myself into the pack, helping where I could, teaching the younger Omegas to draw, organizing supplies, anything to feel useful. They started to warm to me, calling me Eli with shy smiles. It felt good, like I was carving out a place here, even if Caleb didn't see me. One night, a storm hid a wild, howling thing that rattled the windows. I found Caleb on the porch, soaked to the bone, staring into the dark. You'll get sick, I said, stepping out with a blanket. He didn't move, but he didn't push me away when I draped it over his shoulders. Why do you care? He asked, his voice rough. I didn't know how to answer. Because I'm your mate. Because I see you hurting. Instead, I said, you're not as cold as they say. He looked at me then, really looked. And for a moment, the storm wasn't the loudest thing between us. He started opening up after that, little by little. He'd join me in the garden, watching me sketch, asking questions about my drawings. I learned he loved jazz, that he'd wanted to be a musician before pack duties took over. He learned I hated coffee, but drank it anyway, that I'd always wanted to see the ocean. Small things, but they built something fragile, something real. One night, he took my hand, his thumb brushing my knuckles, and I felt the spark I'd been fighting. I don't want to scare you, he murmured. You don't. I lied. Because he did. But not in the way he thought. Then the rival pack struck. It was late. The mansion quiet. When the alarms blared. Caleb was out the door in seconds, barking orders, his alpha presence overwhelming. I followed, ignoring his command to stay put. Outside, chaos wolves snarling, blood on the grass. I saw Caleb shift, his wolf form massive, terrifying, and beautiful, tearing through the intruders with lethal precision. But then I saw Ida Rogue Alpha, gun raised, aimed at Caleb's back. I didn't think. I ran, shoving Caleb out of the way just as the shot rang out. Pain exploded in my shoulder, hot and blinding. I hit the ground, Caleb's roar shaking the air. Everything blurred, his arms around me, his voice begging me to stay awake. "Elias, don't you dare," he growled, his hands pressing against the wound. I wanted to tell him I was fine, that I'd done it because I couldn't lose him. But the world faded to black. I woke to the scent of antiseptic and Caleb's hand in mine. The hospital room was stark, but his presence filled it warm, steady, anchoring. "You idiot," he said, voice hoarse, but his eyes were soft, glistening with something I'd never seen in him before. Fear, relief, love. I tried to sit up, wincing at the pain in my shoulder. "Don't move," he ordered, but his thumb brushed my hand, gentle, like he was afraid I'd break. "You could have died," he said, and the rawness in his voice cracked something in me. "So could you," I shot back, my voice weak but defiant. He laughed, a broken sound, and leaned closer, his forehead resting against mine. "I'm supposed to protect you," he whispered, not the other way around. I wanted to argue, to tell him I wasn't some fragile Omega, but his scent pine and warmth wrapped around me. And for the first time, I didn't fight it. Recovery was slow. The bullet had missed anything vital, but it left a scar, a reminder of how close I'd come to losing everything. Caleb never left my side. He brought me books, sat through my rants about hospital food, even let me sketch him when he thought I wasn't looking. I drew him as I saw him, now not the cold alpha of rumors, but a man carrying too much weight, a man who cared more than he let on. "Stop staring," he'd mutter, but he never stopped me. When I was strong enough, he took me to the ocean. It was a quiet trip, just us, the roar of the waves drowning out the world. We walked along the shore, his hand brushing mine, and I told him everything he fears. My anger at being forced into this life. My hope that maybe, just maybe, we could be more than a contract. He listened, silent, until we stopped at a rocky outcrop. I was scared too, he admitted, staring at the horizon. After my brother died, I thought I had to be untouchable. But you, he turned to me, his eyes fierce. "You make me want to be better." He kissed me then, slow and careful, like he was asking permission. I kissed him back, all my walls crumbling, my Omega instincts singing with something deeper than instinct love, real and terrifying. We stayed there until the stars came out, wrapped in each other, the ocean our witness. Back at Blackthorn, things changed. The pack saw me differently, not just as Caleb's mate, but as someone who'd risked everything for their alpha. Lila started calling me the reckless one, her grin fond. Caleb opened up more, sharing stories of his brother, his dreams, his fears. I shared mine too, my sketches becoming a bridge between us. One night, he showed me the photograph again, his voice steady as he talked about his brother's laugh, his dreams of freedom. "You remind me of him," he said. Not in a bad way. In the best way. But the rival pack wasn't done. They sent a messagia demand for territory, a threat to expose Caleb's past if he didn't comply. I saw the toll it took on him, the way his shoulders tensed, his eyes darkened. "Let me help," I said, and for once, he didn't push me away. We worked together, me using my art to forge a fake map, a decoy to throw off the rivals. It was risky, but it worked. Their attack failed, and Blackthorn stood stronger. The night we celebrated, Caleb pulled me aside, away from the pack's cheers. "I didn't want this marriage," he said, his voice low. "But I want you, Elias. I choose you." My heart stopped, then soared. "I choose you too," I said. And when he kissed me, it wasn't just a promise, it was a vow, stronger than the one we'd made at the altar. We weren't perfect. There were fights, moments when my stubbornness clashed with his control, when the weight of our roles threatened to pull us apart. But we learned to talk, to listen, to choose each other every day. I kept drawing, my sketches now filled with him, his strength, his softness, the man I'd come to love. The pack became my family, not because I was an Omega, but because I was Eli. They're reckless, stubborn Eli. In the end, it wasn't about alphas or omegas, duty or destiny. It was about two people finding each other in a world that tried to tear them apart. Caleb wasn't the cold man I'd feared, and I wasn't the helpless Omega I'd thought I was. Together, we were something more: partners, equals, a love that burned brighter than any contract could contain.